Mr. Bill Johnson from part 2. R.A. Wilhoff from part 3. And Mr. Dan Yeager from the newest installment, Texas Chainsaw. I butchered your name?
Yes, man.
Well, how do you say it?
Well, I'm going to forgive you because you're too young. Remember that Russian dude with Pavel Gorbachev?
I do.
It's the same name without the K. Mihai.
Mihai.
Yeah.
All right. Because I've done a Q&A with you before. I've done a Q&A with Gunnar. I've never done Mr. Johns before and now Mr. Yeager. But guys, holy crap. Leatherface.
The head gets in the way.
The head gets in the way? Oh, you can leave it up. I certainly don't mind. So guys, let's go down the line a little bit and share just as time has gone on here, how has Leatherface impacted your life? Big question. For you especially, because it's been such a long period of time.
It's never gotten me laid.
That's a good question.
I do want a real answer.
Sure.
It's never gotten me laid. Well, I mean, I think the thing is that, you know, we did this movie because it was, for me, it was a summer job. You know, it's just something I thought, I've had a bunch of very strange and some interesting jobs, and this would be a very interesting and strange summer job. So that's why I did the movie. I don't think I had any expectation that it would be anything. I was hoping that, you know, 5 years down the road, some people will remember it. But I think the big influence on me was, after the movie was over, it was a really hard thing to do. But it was the first time I'd ever been involved with something where everybody I was working with was really good at what they were doing, and everybody was giving their best effort. And I had never been in that situation. I just quit grad school, and you'd think in grad school that people were that way, but mostly they were slackers. And I realized that I wanted to live in a world where I was really good at whatever I did, and I always did my best. And I think that was the biggest effect on my life that working on that movie had. But it's never gotten me laid.
All the women that refused him came to me. And they rejected me.
Great head, Bill.
So there, my life has been enriched by this experience. It's great to be here with you all. Sort of bizarre celebration of sadism, cannibalism, narcissism, republicanism.
But enough about you.
Already told me to keep this short, but I'm not going to do it. Bitch. I didn't want to talk about his penis. That about sums it up. This is a great ride, and I really love coming here and participating with you all and having fun. And memory stuff, and talking about the formative years of our life, where watching a movie 100 times in a row was something that really made a lot of sense. And it's my favorite couch drop, and I hope it continues to be yours as well. And in this this deadly silence, I'm going to turn this over to R.A.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah.
By the time I came along, Gunnar Hansen and Bill Johnson had done the part, so I thought you had to be Scandinavian. So I converted to Viking. But no, I'm just kidding. By the time I got into it, the franchise had been very well established, and I worked for a pretty big company, so I knew it was a good opportunity. And so it changed me from a day player to someone who played an iconic character. And you're looking at someone who actually simultaneously fulfilled his childhood fantasy and his adult ambition. I got to star in a movie, and it happened to be a horror movie. My childhood fantasy, when I was a little kid, I used to read famous monsters of filmland and wondered, how do you get to be Frankenstein and how do you get to be the Mummy? I found out. And once I learned, once I realized that you could make a living as an actor, I wanted some of that shit. So, to be the titular character of a movie, that seemed pretty cool. So I fulfilled my childhood fantasy and my adult ambition simultaneously. That's it.
For me, I found out that once you're Leatherface, you are Leatherface. It defines you. And when I first started in acting 28 years ago, I met a famous actor who played Count Yorga the vampire. His name was Robert Quarry, and he told me, just move to Hollywood, you will make a living playing monsters. And I resisted and resisted. Finally, it had this opportunity, and finally, once I was making a living playing anything that was a monster. And despite that, my agent kept sending me to Disney to audition for TV shows.
What?
And now the rest of the world doesn't actually know what we're doing here. They're not really aware of all this. And so I know every time I go into an audition and really knock it out of the park and do a great job, they Google Dan Yeager, and all the pictures come up of me being Leatherface. You know how he is. And they immediately decide, no, this is not Disney Channel material. So anyway, it does define you, but in a good way. I'm nothing but happy. I wouldn't change a thing.
You guys want to ask some questions? Okay, we got.
Well, Michael very small cowboy film. For some reason, they never used a single footage of the event. And I know that kind of broke his heart.
Was that film?
Yeah, it was quite a bit of it. I remember distinctly seeing my first time I met him. He's got that great character face. And he was just like in that role in his trailer. I think we have a lot of rain coverage. I mean, it's like the weather changes, we go to that scene, and I know that broke his heart. But he survived it, and that's Hollywood. Hollywood is supposed to break the heart. But then the triumphs are incredible.
Who else has a question? Right here. The craziest fan interaction you've had so far this weekend? This weekend or just in general? In general.
I remember a Sunday, I think it was down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it was Sunday, Sunday to Tuesday, it snowed. And I saw this woman wearing a yellow sundress coming towards me, and I knew it was going to be trouble. Not that I had this yellow sundress is good, but she goes up to the table, she says, you need to see this, and it's steady shore, and she had a table, and right there on the inside of her thigh was my face. And to this day, I'm still traumatized. She says, "You want to see? You want to see me make him wiggle?" I said, "Who? I'm here." She said, "Oh, those tricks." So.
I can't top that.
I don't know where we go from here. Yeah.
Fans are lovely. You know, you guys are so dedicated, and without you, we wouldn't be here. So thank you for continuing to love our work. All you strange and suddenly crazy ways. We love you. Oh, throw a tattoo my face on the inside of your Please.
Yeah, the tattoos are very, very interesting. And, you know, I've had some interesting fan reactions, but you know, I guess I'm like a kid in a lot of ways because, you know, I like people and I assume that, you know, sometimes you can just be straight up and you can just be honest with this whole point is that you can just be direct with people. And sometimes I mistake what is probably fan stuff or friendships. And I guess that can be kind of confusing. So that's the downside of this business, I guess, because it's just hard to read, and you know, and sometimes you say things and people mistake things, and it just sort of, it breaks my heart that there's a little barrier that you can't really, but, so, yeah, so it's, so sometimes, I guess, you know, I've had some weird fan experiences, but just sometimes you just, it's just because anybody can say anything, and you know, it's just very hard for me, I think, to read people, and I think it's really kind of well, no, just you know, just sometimes, you know, you think that, wow, you know, we connect. I always sort of want to connect on a real basis, and I just want to feel like, wow, we kind of know each other, and I'm just sometimes just made aware that we don't know each other, you know, that we just met here in Philadelphia, in Cherry Hill, and that's all good, but yeah, so that's the hardest part of the whole band thing for me. And like Tony was saying, I can't top the inside play. I went to buy a car, and the salesman said, "We have a mechanic here. He's a big fan of yours, and he has a tattoo of you." And so he calls the guy in, and I'm thinking he has a little tattoo, but he has his entire calf from his knee down to his ankle. This guy's about 6'6", with my face on his leg, and so sometimes that stuff gets a little but yeah. So. I'm sorry, what?
Discount on the car?
No, they give me a discount. You pay more when that happens. I don't get discounts, but he's the only guy that work on my car. I mean, if he's that good, I'm like, I want him to work on the car.
Okay, we're going to take some more questions. In the middle, in the back there. Go ahead.
Before you start shooting the movie, did you do any research to prepare your roles better, like with Devil's Eye or Canada or Louise, like from Jigsaw, like murder or anything like that?
Was that to anybody?
There was
Well, I've done so many policemen until, I joined the sheriff's department. I mean, that's how many cops out there. And I think if you're going to play a role, you need to know what that character's world is somewhat like. You have to, you can't just assume. You have to do a little homework. And so Albrecht was sort of, composite of a lot of stuff. But the fun of this stuff is doing, some reason, until you can settle into, you really believe you get the guy, you get the character. It's fun.
I think great writing is great writing is great writing, and if it's not on the page, you know, so your research is sort of, you know, knowing and understanding what the character is. James O'Barr did a phenomenal job of creating characters, and I think the backstory is somewhere between those layers, and that's just sort of what intrigues the actor into wanting to create a character. So for me, you know, everything was on the page already, a love story. I know that Brandon did a lot of research work within the pages of whatever he was provided. He talked about that a lot. But for me as a filmmaker, if it's not on the page, it's not there. So different methods of acting dictate, you know, research and so forth. Since I am a filmmaker now, a storyteller, it's all about the script.
Which is wonderful, you get a decent script, but unfortunately, a lot of it need work. You know, sometimes you almost have to go there and, because ultimately they're not going to see the director and they're not going to see the writer's face, they're going to see you. And you're going to be in Target and somebody's going to say, oh my God, I saw that movie and that was stupid. So you want it to be on the page, and that's really, and you're right, but sometimes you almost have to go, come on, that's, you know, sometimes you have to do more English. That's all.
We're going to take one last question. Let's see, we'll go for you in front.
There we go. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
What we'll do, as we always do, if you have a question, please raise your hand and try to project your question loud so that everyone can hear it. Okay, who has a question right here?
I kind of want to preempt a lot of questions. I'm sure somebody's going to say, how was it working with Jack? How was it working with Shelley? How was it working with Statman and all those guys? What I really want to know is, did you guys go to the premiere, and what did you think of that movie when you saw it for the first time on the big screen?
Okay, well, we didn't go to the premiere because in the UK it came out with an 18 certificate and we were only 10, so we weren't allowed to go. And we actually didn't see the movie until about 10 years later. And then I think we probably saw it on DVD, or rather, would have been video then, back in the days before DVD. And I don't think we ever found it scary. No. Because we knew how it was made, and we knew what we expected to see. The thing that I thought most when I saw it was very well put together, and the emotions of the characters were very well conveyed. Graphically, or rather optically, so you didn't need to be told how people felt, you could see how they felt. And I think that's probably what Stanley Kubrick is best as a director. When I've seen other things of his, I've always thought to myself, oh yeah, he describes, you can see his characters' emotions, and you're very drawn into their world. You understand how they feel, and you can feel how they feel without the need for any words at all.
Who else has a question? Oh, come on, guys. Right here?
I'm sorry, we can't hear you, sir. Oh, the documentary Room 237. What? Oh, the documentary Room 237 didn't come out when we were filming. That was made later. Or do you mean the one that Vivian Kubrick shot at the same time?
He's just wondering what your thoughts on it were, like if you thought, have you seen the documentary?
Yeah, I have seen the documentary. That came up with ideas I'd never heard of at the time, and I don't recall anyone speaking about those ideas on the set. So I can't speak for the veracity of those ideas. Okay?
Okay, right here.
So what was it like working with Stanley Kubrick?
You're such an old hand, really, aren't you, sir? He was a lovely, very family-orientated man, big bear of a man. I don't think I'd ever met anyone so tall in my life. We were very small people. And he had this really big beard. I don't think I knew anyone who had a big beard then either, actually. And he was a really, really, really lovely man. Really, really, you know, if you wanted to know, you hear people saying stories about Hollywood, certainly from previous era. But no, that wouldn't be at all true. We never had anything. No, he was a lovely man, really nice guy.
So he wasn't as strict with you as he was with the other characters?
For us, he was a puppet. I don't know how strict he was with anyone else. He was really cool with us.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, right here. Question was, how did they get the roles?
It was a public audition, and we were in London at the time doing sightseeing with our mum and dad, and this public audition announcement came out on the radio, and mum and dad said, oh, do you want to go? Because I wanted to be film stars. He said, yeah, let's go. And dad said, oh, don't worry if you don't get a part. You'll probably get to look around a film studio, which, you know, this was before people do public tours of film studios, and certainly in England you didn't do public tours of film studios. So dad said, oh, this is probably the only way you'll ever get to see a film lot. So I thought, yeah, okay, we'll go. And there were thousands of other girls there. And I think we just went and we did a couple of screen tests for one of the assistant directors, or rather one of Stanley's assistants, Leon Vitali, and then you got moved up and up until you screen tested in front of Stanley Kubrick. And I guess he saw something in us and thought, yeah, you know, let's make them scary twins. Yes, in the picture we're not actually chopped up.
But it's not body doubles. We were told, you know, when you make a film, people use like white tape here to get you to lay down in a particular place. So we were just told to lay down in a particular place, and maybe once the shots were set up, maybe move an arm or a leg a few millimeters. But no, we're just holding our breath. Okay, we're good at holding our breath.
Yes, we did. That particular scene we shot after most of the film we shot, so it shot a bit later when the sets were quieter and they were closed down. There were very few people on the set at the time that sort of rivers of blood scene was shot, and the blood was just poured. It was just something called Kensington Gore, which the makeup artist Tom Smith made up, and it's just warmed up to body temperature and just poured over. So I remember my only concern was being cold. I didn't really mind being covered in red stuff. Yeah, we saw Jack on set, and Shelley Duvall, and I seem to remember at the time she's going out with Paul Simon, and he had this cool little, or I think she'd recently split up with him. She was either going out with him or recently split up, I can't quite remember. And she had this cool little game that he was designing or developing, and it's a musical game set on a wheel. And I remember we played with that, we thought that was really good fun. It's like a Space Invader, or sort of looked like a spaceship, but it had colours. I don't know if anybody else here remembers it.
I don't think I'd really looked.
I don't.
Okay, right there.
Okay, the chance of recreating it now.
Did we say it to you, sir? We must be more careful in future. We must do it the day after the Q&A. Okay. Come and play with us, Stanley, forever and ever. Hope you all have horrible nightmares. Oh, thank you.
Okay, there's a question all the way in the back. all we heard was, you heard that it was true that the hotel was haunted. Do you want to come closer so we can hear you, or? No.
Right, well, the hotel in The Shining, the exterior shots were brought in, I think, from Oregon or somewhere, Colorado. But the interior shots that you see in the movie is just a film lot. When you see in the movie the front of the hotel when Jack Nicholson is chasing Danny, that was held up on acroprops. It was just a front made out of plywood and painted to look like a hotel. And in the movies you can make anything real, so that's what they did. I think it's cheaper to do it that way than actually go and rent a hotel for months on end. I don't know what it costs to rent a hotel for months on end, a lot.
The hotel in Colorado, though, it was a hotel that Stephen King actually stayed in, and the room number is actually the room number of the room that he stayed in, and it supposedly is haunted. And the opening shot of the movie, when you see the long winding road that goes up to the hotel, that was all done. Like that's the road to the actual hotel. Once a year they have what they call a shining party, where they recreate the masquerade party that's in the film. I'm trying to is it the Estes Hotel? The Stanley Hotel, I'm sorry, that's right.
There's illegal work going on right there.
It's this, I'm sorry, thank you. It's the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, but the scenes you see of a lot of the hotel, the interiors are sets, but a lot of the outside stuff is the actual hotel that Stephen King stayed in. And they're very grateful to Stephen King for writing that book.
Oh, well, we unfortunately didn't know who Stanley Kubrick was at the time because we were 10. But my parents knew who he was, and my mum was quite fond of things like Dr. Strangelove, and she thought he was quite an interesting film director. But so what was it like when we met him? He was just a really easy person to meet, but we were only 10. I think maybe as you get older and you understand who people are, their significance, their cultural significance, maybe then you can step back and see them more as the cultural significant part of themselves than rather as the human part. But when we met him as children, he was more the human than Stanley Kubrick, the big American director. I don't know that he got bigger as time went on after The Shining too. So I hope that answers your question.
And also we didn't have to go to school so much because we were filming.
Yeah, well, that time off.
We had this tutor and that was quite easy to duck. I got his wooden pot.
Okay, right here.
Not since The Shining, no. We probably had to get an education, something to fall back on, in case that didn't pan out. Before The Shining, we did TV work, yeah.